Hello and welcome back to our Lord of the Rings LCG solo progression series, and today's quest is the Nightmare version of Peril in Pelargir, which was the first scenario in the Heirs of Numenor Deluxe expansion. A quick reminder, in this series we're playing through each quest in chronological order of the game's initial release, and we'll only be using player cards that were available at the time of this quest release. I'm calling this deck Street Fighters 2. The first deck for Peril and Pelargir was called Street Fighters, and so this is just the obvious sequel. Previously I used Beorn, Thalon, and Barivor, but you really don't want to use Ranger Spikes against this quest, and so we're just going with the mono tactics and taking advantage of a new card called Train for War. But let's talk about the new cards. Moblung is the hero from the Neen Elf. The previous quest was from that adventure pack, and so he's pretty much making a debut in the pack in which he came out. Just one off, but 10 threat, 2 willpower, 2 attack, 2 defense, 4 health, and he is a Gondor and Ranger traded card. Response: after you engage an enemy, add 1 resource to Moblung's resource pool, and so he is some much needed resource acceleration and tactics, and he works great in this quest. We have a card here called Train for War that came out in the Druidon Forest. It can only be played if each hero you control has the printed tactics resource icon. Action until the end of the phase. If the current quest does not have siege, it gains battle, and so we'll force stage 3 to be a battle questing stage, and so that way we don't have to build a deck that does well on battle questing for 2 stages and then you have to normal quest. We can just battle quest our way to the win. And Moblung helps us just to pay for all these cards. We've got some card draw with the Eagles Are Coming, with Foehammer. Bofer counts as card draw, and then also just kind of put these in to thin the deck out. Hidden Cache and the White Council allow us to draw cards. We have to spend a resource to do it, but it just gets us to the cards that we actually want to have in our hand. Well, let's get through the quest and see how we do. Yep, got to load it up. So here we go. Peril and Pelargir Nightmare. Let's look at the opening hand. It's good. Got a couple of feints, got a weapon and Foehammer. The most important thing is to have some card draw in your opening hand, and so the fact that I have a weapon and Foehammer is good. I don't mind seeing feint either. All right, so we... here's the Nightmare setup card. We remove the following cards in the following quantities and shuffle in the Nightmare cards. We're playing Nightmare mode, and there's a force effect at the end of the combat phase. If Alcaron's scroll is in the staging area, unattached to us, attach it to the enemy in play with the highest defense. And at the beginning of the refresh phase, immediately after that, if Alcaron's scroll is attached to an enemy, place 1 progress token on the enemy. If at any point there are 3 or more progress tokens on an enemy, that enemy has escaped with the scroll and the players lose the game. So there really isn't a reason, if you remember, to, once we lose Alcaron's scroll, we generally want to just leave it unattached. And it used to be we could do that, but now it would attach to an enemy even if we had Ranger Spikes out. And so we have to be careful about this, but it's not really overly difficult because we'll just deal with each enemy as they come out in turn. So that's the difference between regular and Nightmare. And here we go, the Leaping Fish. The White Council has sent you by ship to Gondor to help fight the threat of Mordor. Upon arrival in the port city of Pelargir, you are greeted by Lord Alcaron, who takes you to the Leaping Fish, where you can speak privately. For setup, search the encounter deck for the Leaping Fish and Alcaron's scroll. Here is Leaping Fish, here's Alcaron's scroll. The Leaping Fish, make it the active location, which I've done, and attach Alcaron's scroll to a hero. We will attach it to Boromir. So the Leaping Fish tells us that if Alcaron's scroll is attached to a hero, right now it is, it gains a force effect. At the beginning of the quest phase, discard X cards from the top of the encounter deck, where X is the number of players in the game. Add each enemy discarded by this effect to the staging area. Okay, we have to make 6 progress, and it says inside the tavern, Lord Alcaron looks nervously toward the door as he hands you a scroll bearing the seal of Gondor. He asks that you deliver it to Faramir in Ithilien, but the brigands who just entered look intent on taking it from you. So we are in battle questing. Characters will use their attack value instead of willpower for questing. So let's switch over to battle questing. When revealed, each player must search the encounter deck for a copy of Harbor Thug and add it to the staging area. So there are 4 copies in the deck. There's actually 5, but 1 is removed here. So there's 1 in staging. Force: when the player whose hero has Alcaron Scroll attached raises his threat, Harbor Thug engages that player. All right, so we're set up here, resource phase. Yeah, the first thing we'll do is attach Dagger of Westerness to Boromir, and this gives him as one of the 2 restricted attachments he can have. Attached hero gets +1 attack, and if attacking an enemy with an engagement cost higher than our threat, we would have +2. But for now, he just gets +1, so his attack value is now 4. We'll hang on to our resources. Otherwise, we'll just quest now with Boromir and with Moblung. And at the beginning of the quest phase, before we committed actually, so we actually have to do this, at the beginning of the quest phase, forced, if Alcaron Scroll is attached to a hero, the Leaping Fish gains this forced effect. Discard X cards from the top of the encounter deck. Add each enemy discarded by this effect to the staging area. X is the number of players in the game. And so we'll see if it's an enemy. It's not. So that was discarded. And now we'll quest. A little bit swingy there, but we can handle it even if it were an enemy. And so we reveal Cunning Informant, one of the new enemies from the Nightmare deck. While Alcaron Scroll is attached to a hero, Cunning Informant gets +3 attack. So right now we do have a, Alcaron Scroll is attached to a hero. Tells us during the encounter phase, if Alcaron Scroll is attached to a hero, that hero's controller is considered to have +10 threat for the purpose of engagement checks. So our threat's considered 43. Okay, we did make a point of progress. And a lot of times, we'll quest unsuccessfully, and when we do, our threat goes up and Harbor Thug comes down during the quest phase. That allows us to get a resource out of Moblung once per phase, and then he'll get another resource during the encounter phase. But that didn't work for us this time. It's fine, though. So during the encounter phase, our threat is considered to be 43. Both of these are under our engagement cost or under our threat either way. So we have 2 enemies engaging us here. Moblung's response says, after you engage an enemy, add 1 resource to Moblung's resource pool once per phase. We'll go ahead and ready Boromir during the encounter phase using his action. Raise your threat by 1 to ready Boromir. And so we have 2 enemies attacking us. We definitely want to lose Alcaron Scroll. So Harbor Thug's going to attack for 3. I'll defend with Boromir. 3 against 2. And he gets +2. So that's 5 against 2. That's going to be 3 damage. Let's go ahead and use Gondorian Discipline. Response: cancel up to 2 points of damage dealt to a Gondor character. So just 1 point of damage. And that means Alcaron Scroll says, Force: when a hero with Alcaron Scroll attached is damaged by an enemy attack, it has to be an enemy attack, attach Alcaron Scroll to that enemy. So I got rid of Alcaron Scroll. It's attached to Harbor Thug. Let's go ahead and ready Boromir. We can do that once per phase. We did it previously during the encounter phase, so now we're in the combat phase. So now this guy doesn't attack for that +3 anymore. There's a chance, there's 1 shadow card that says defend your hand. So I don't mind defending with Boromir here, but what I'm going to do just to keep us from losing our hand, I'd really like to draw these cards. I don't know. Let's just defend. If it happens, it happens. It's better to defend your. It's just 1 card. It's a treachery, and the shadow says the defending player has to discard his hand. But 2 against 1, and it's not that card. So 1 damage on Beorn. He does not exhaust to defend. We'll be able to destroy both of these enemies. Let's go ahead and destroy Harbor Thug with Beorn, which means now that Alcaron Scroll, if unattached, return Alcaron Scroll to the staging area. So it's in staging, and now we'll attack for 4. Boromir has his boost from Dagger of Westerness. That's enough to destroy Cunning Informant. And in response, we'll play Foe Hammer. Response: after a hero you control attacks and destroys an enemy, exhaust a weapon card attached to that hero to draw 3 cards. So there's some good card draw there. And we will, in order, I'd rather this be the Brigand on top. So I discarded the enemy and the shadow card in whatever order I chose. Sometimes this guy here, he has a forced effect. When Peril, Pelargir Ringleader engages a player, return the topmost Brigand enemy in the encounter discard pile to play. I'd rather it be a Cunning Informant. All right, so that's it for the round. And so, this forced effect is looking for, at the end of the combat phase, if Alcaron's Scroll is in the staging area, it is. Attach it to the enemy and play with the highest defense. There aren't any enemies, so that's usually what we'll try to do, is just destroy enemies as they come out. Next round. We'll go ahead and play Eagles of the Misty Mountain, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And there's not really a reason to play Blade of Gondolin, so let's quest. We'll go ahead also and let's play Winged Guardian. So let's quest here, and we don't have to do this discarding effect. In fact, let's quest with Beorn. A lot of times in round 2, I'll quest with Beorn just to clear out the Leaping Fish. And I'll leave this Winged Guardian available for chumping. I've also, if an enemy comes out, I'll get a resource from Moblung, and so I could play Feint. So we don't have to discard a card because Alcaron Scroll's not attached to a hero. So we just reveal Dockside Street. And this is one of the reasons you don't really want Ranger Spikes. While Dockside Street is in the staging area, enemies in the staging area cannot be damaged or optionally engaged. So if you had a Ranger Spikes out, that enemy would not be able to optionally engage us. And travel effect says exhaust the hero with Alcaron Scroll attached to travel here. There is an effect in stage 2 where this can be forced to be attached to an enemy, and so we would get in a situation where we could not deal with the enemy being stuck with Alcaron Scroll. We'd lose the game unless we had like Westfold Rider, I think is what it's called. Westfold Outrider, something like that. But we made 11 progress, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we clear the Leaping Fish. This goes to the victory display, and we move on to stage 2. Fighting in the streets. During the fight in the tavern, one of your adversaries managed to grab Alcaron's Scroll and flee outside. You chase the thief into the street where you are surrounded by a gang of his fellow brigands. You must fight your way through the mob and recover the scroll. We're still in battle questing. The players cannot advance to the next stage unless Alcaron's Scroll is attached to a hero. When revealed, attach Alcaron's Scroll to the highest engagement cost enemy in play if able. Otherwise, add Alcaron's Scroll to the staging area. So it just stays in the staging area. During the travel phase, I can't travel here because it says to travel here I'd have to exhaust the hero with Alcaron's Scroll attached. I could, during questing, I could ready Boromir and exhaust Boromir to claim this and then ready him and travel here, but I'd rather not. So we'll just refresh and move on to the next round. We will attach a second Dagger of Westerness to Boromir. This gives him +2 overall on his attack value. And we'll quest. And we'll reveal Bedlam in the Streets. When revealed, each player must either remove a hero he controls from the quest or engage an enemy in the staging area. Can't choose the second option, so we'll remove Moblung. Each enemy engaged by this effect makes an immediate attack. We made 5 progress. And during the travel phase, we still can't travel here. Don't really want to. Refresh. Next round. I'll go ahead and put out Winged Guardian, a second one. Let's quest again. Saving up my resources. I don't really want to play Gandalf at this point. We reveal Pelargir Alley. While Alcaron Scroll is not attached to a hero, Pelargir Alley gains +3 threat. And so we made 2 progress. During the travel phase, we will travel to Pelargir Alley and refresh next round. Here's another Eagle Ally, the Vassal of the Windlord. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's play Gandalf from hand and draw 3 cards. And we will quest and make plenty of progress here. We reveal Pelargir Docks. Lots of locations. 10 progress, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we haven't quite cleared fighting in the streets. During the travel phase, we will travel here to Pelargir Docks. We will refresh, and at the end of the round, Gandalf is discarded. Next round. We'll play Vassal of the Windlord and Dwarven Axe, I guess. We'll attach it to Moblung. Cost 2, attached to a hero. Attached hero gets +1 attack, +2 if it were a dwarf. Let's go ahead and quest. We're just questing with the really with attack values because that's all you can, in battle questing, the defense doesn't work or the willpower. Okay, we reveal Local Trouble. When revealed, attach this card to the hero with the highest threat cost without a copy of Local Trouble attached. That's going to be Boromir. So we attach it to Boromir. This tells us it's a condition now. When attached hero exhausts, readies, or triggers an ability, raise its controller's threat by 1. So this is a real problem. This is why we have Gandalf largely to lower our threat in case this comes out. I tried to build the deck where I had Song of Travel and Power of Orthanc, but it just wasn't really worth it. You can lose the game if you get this in the first couple of rounds. It's going to go on Boromir. Anytime he exhausts, anytime he readies, you're going to raise your threat by 1 each time. And he's going to, be using his ability here. So it's just a lot of threat raise from having a Boromir. Okay, so we made 9 progress. So 1, 2, 3, and 6. And so we have cleared Pelargir Docks. We've made the necessary progress, but players cannot advance to the next stage unless Alcaron Scroll is attached to a hero. So let's attach Alcaron Scroll to Boromir. We'll exhaust Boromir to claim Alcaron Scroll. If unattached, this has been in staging, exhaust a hero to attach Alcaron Scroll to a hero. So we just claimed it with Boromir. Our threat went up by 1 because of Local Trouble. And now we have advanced here during, let's just say we're at quest resolution. Escape to the keys. You've recovered the scroll but are still outnumbered by your determined foes. Lord Alcaron shouts for you to escape and deliver the scroll before he flees to summon the city guard. If you can get to your ship, you can escape the clutches of these desperate thugs. When revealed, each player searches the encounter deck and discard pile for 1 enemy and adds it to the staging area. Always look in the discard pile for a harbor thug. They're the most easy enemies to deal with, and I'd rather them remain in the encounter deck. So I just grab it out of the encounter discard pile. And since I didn't search the encounter deck, I don't have to shuffle it. Enemies cannot be optionally engaged. There's a force effect. The first enemy revealed from the encounter deck each round makes an immediate attack against the player who controls Alcaron Scroll from the staging area. Players cannot defeat the stage unless Alcaron Scroll is attached to a hero. If you defeat the stage, you've won the game. We are not in battle questing, so let's go over here to options to normal quest. Don't really want to travel to Dockside Street. During the encounter phase, We do have a Harbor Thug engaging us. You don't make optional engagements. You cannot optionally engage enemies, but this was an engagement check. So Moblung's response gives us a resource. He'll get a shadow card, and we'll use Moblung's response to pay for feint. Combat action: choose an enemy, engage with a player. That enemy cannot attack that player this phase. And then Beorn will destroy Harbor Thug. Refresh. And it should be the last round here. Next round. We will go ahead and play Hidden Cache. Action: spend one resource to draw a card. Okay. And now during the quest phase, at the beginning of the quest phase, I will play Train for War. Play only if each hero you control has the printed tactics resource icon. We do, all three. And it says, until the end of the phase, if the current quest does not have siege, it gains battle. So I just switched this over to battle questing. Let's go to options, battle questing. And I'll just quest with everybody here, except for my Winged Guardians. I'll leave them ready for possibly chumping, but we've committed all of our attack that we can. And Boromir, when he exhausted, local trouble raised our threat by 1. We reveal Market Square. We made 16 progress and won the quest in 7 rounds. So that looked easy, and it usually is. There are some playthroughs. Again, local trouble can be an issue if you get it early. There's just not condition removal in tactics. And then this can be an issue. The shadow on Lost in the City. There's just one copy of this, but defending player discards his hand. That can be a bummer if that happens to you. But otherwise, we're really kind of ready for everything. So local trouble, the biggest issue. So I tried for a little while to do Beorn and Boromir, and then Glorfindel, Spirit Glorfindel. But it just takes away this ability to play Train for War. And so then you have to figure out how you're going to quest in stage 3. And so it makes you then have to chase down cards like maybe Faramir, or even makes you think, okay, I've got to do a Gondor Swarm deck with Visionary Leadership. And so it just becomes real problematic. I'd rather just rush the quest and win 9 times out of 10 and just every now and then take my lump with local trouble. So let me look at my hand and see if there's anything we didn't really see. We didn't see Bofer, but I put him into play mostly for his action. We can exhaust him to look at the top 5 cards for a weapon attachment and add it to our hand. So he's good card draw. There's 8 attachments he could look for. Eagles Are Coming helps us to draw. It's another copy of Eagles Are Coming, but also Eagles of the Misty Mountains, Vassal of the Windlord, and Winged Guardian exists to be a chump, and ultimately to leave play and be, bolster an Eagles of the Misty Mountain. There is an enemy that can come out that does 1 damage to each ally in play, and so you would lose Vassals and Winged Guardians, but that's fine as long as you have an Eagles of the Misty Mountains out to grab those attachments. Knights of Minas Tirith, just a 3 cost, 3 attack, 3 health ally, so it's helpful in this battle questing deck. Goblin Cleaver, there are no orc enemies. There's only 1 enemy that can just be killed straight up by Goblin Cleaver. I forget what it's called. Zealous Traitor. So Goblin Cleaver can destroy Zealous Traitor, but a lot of times, imagine you were attacking a Losarnock bandit with Boromir, and he has just 1 copy of Blade or Dagger of Westerness. That's 1 damage, and then you just take care of him with a Goblin Cleaver. So this is helpful for taking out enemies. And then again, Hidden Cache and the White Council just help us draw cards to get to the cards we actually need. And you usually just rush and do well. I found that questing with Beorn in round 2 is very important for just go ahead and clearing out the leaping fish, and then that keeps you from getting location locked. So that's kind of important to do that, I believe. And I really found that Winged Guardians were great just to have a pretty cheap chump that can do something once he leaves play. He can bolster an Eagles of the Misty Mountains. Just super helpful. Well, that's it. That's the quest. Hope you enjoyed it. I know it was a quick one. Don't mind those. After a couple of playthroughs ago, it was like an over an hour break into the fellowship. So nice to have a quick quest for once. Thank you for joining me as always. Hope you enjoyed the quest, and I'll see you again next time. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye.